Hey folks, Crimson Blaze here. Welcome to the channel. I am back on trail for my first backpacking trip of 2025, and this weekend I find myself in the Superstition Wilderness. Let's get to it. I'm about 3 miles in now, so I thought this would be a good time just to take a break and tell you a little bit about this trip. This is the first weekend in February, and I was just getting an itch for a backpacking trip. Well, I live in northern Colorado, and right now there's just snow on the ground and, below freezing temps, and that's not really, my thing for backpacking trips. But, a good thing about living in Colorado is that you have access to areas like Utah and Arizona. And I remember watching a YouTube video from one of my favorite YouTubers, Syntax77. He's like the original hammock guy on YouTube, and he is fantastic. Well, I remember him doing a trip with his wife in January in the Superstition Mountains. I didn't know where that was at the time, so I looked it up, and it's in just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, probably about 45 minutes east. And he was there in January, and the temps were like 60, 70 degrees. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah. So that's what got the kind of the bug in me to start researching this area. And what I'm going to be doing is I call it the Needles Loop. So I started at the Peralta Trailhead, and I'm going to be doing a 3-day, 2-night backpacking loop from that trailhead. But I call it the Needles Loop because one of the main attractions in this area is the Weaver's Needle. And so that's pretty cool. And then there's another needle called the Miner's Needle. And so I think I'll see that either late tomorrow or on my 3rd day out. So I called it the Needles Loop. And I'll put, a description of the trails that I took. But it's going to be 19 miles. This first day is going to be my biggest day of around 8, maybe 9 miles. It just worked out that way where the water's at. And then I'll have 2 short days, the final 2. But man, the weather is beautiful. Right now it's probably high of 65 degrees. I saw that the low was going to be around 40, 45, so that is just perfect. The bummer is no trees, so I do have my tent with me, my Z-Packs Duplex, so I brought that along. And it is just a beautiful area out here. And the thing I really like are the cactus or the cacti. These are the cactus that I remember in like the Roadrunner cartoons, and Wile E. Coyote. That's always what I thought of as a cactus, the big green, almost looked human-like, that it had arms sticking out. And they're everywhere, and it is super cool. like I said, I started at the Peralta Trail, but there are a few trails that lead off from that trailhead. And the ones that come to the Weaver's Needle, there's two. There's a Peralta, which will go to the left of the needle, and then there's the one that I took, which is Bluff Springs. And I hear the Peralta Trail, you get a better view of Weaver's Needle, like you can see the whole thing clearly unobstructed. But there's just a ton of people, like day hikers, that go over there and do that trail. It was recommended to me to do the Bluff Springs and then coming up Terrapin to get the views. And I loved it so far. I've liked how the views have changed as I've been coming in and out of the canyon. I'm not just getting one, type of view of the needle. I'm getting different angles and different aspects as I'm coming, up and down these canyons. So I've loved it so far. I've connected a lot of trails in order to make this loop. I started off on the Bluff Springs Trail, and then that connects with the Terrapin Trail, and now I am on the Dutchman Trail. And I mention that because there is a cool mystery to this Superstition Wilderness, and we'll talk a little bit more about that once I get to camp. Here is our next intersection. So Bull Pass goes on that way, and Dutchman's Trail continues on that way. And that's what we do. We'll feed back around on Dutchman's Trail, and I believe this should be starting to hike parallel with Labarge Creek. And I hear that Labarge Creek is one of the more reliable sources that doesn't dry up any time of the year. So that's what we are hoping for. I think that's just another half mile down the trail. But we'll see, if we find a good spot, maybe a view of Weaver's Needle. We'll see what we can do. All right, let's get to camp. So Labarge Creek is dry from what I saw, and all the videos I'd watched, it was running actually pretty good. So I didn't think I was going to have any issues with Labarge Creek. But I had heard that Charlie Boy Spring, again, not sure how you pronounce that, is a reliable source. So, I can fill up my 3-liter bag and drink away. Fortunate to have a little stream here where I can collect the water and, don't have to pull it up from the stagnant. I would if I had to, but glad to have some flowing water for my filters. Finally made it to camp. Pretty good campsite. It's sandy, so should be soft. Yeah, we hiked about 8.5 miles today. But it was a good day. I've been making too many hammock videos and not enough getting out on the trail. My legs are tired, but it was a good day. Man, it's a beautiful place out here, and it's so much more than just the Weaver's Needle. I love the canyons. I love the cacti. I love, just the undulating hills. It's just, it's beautiful. But all right, let me rest here a little bit, get some water, and then I'm going to set up my tent. All Camp is set up. So I just kept the one door awning open, and I just rolled up the doors on the other side. It's not supposed to rain tonight. And these thorns right here, whew, I didn't want it to tear my my fabric. But yeah, it's all right. Should have a nice little breeze coming in there. But yeah, beautiful little area with the sun setting. This is awesome. This is where I probably might have my meal. Not too bad. But, ooh, these thorns, cacti, whatever, I had heard in a couple of the videos that everything on this trail wants to kind of jump out and attack you. And that's not a lie, you know, because some of these places, it's not just wide open, like in right there. I'm getting scratched. I don't know if you can see my shirt. It's like peeling up. It is just, whew, it has taken its toll. So, because of that, what I would recommend is if you're going to come out here and do this trail, don't bring anything nice. And you really, I mean, I don't think you should bring expensive clothes out on the trail anyway, because it's going to get nasty and dirty and messed up. It's kind of what it's made for. But just so you know, you are going to get ripped up a little bit. And it's making me think a little bit about tomorrow morning. You know, when I hike in the morning, I generally wear a puffy. I also have my melly with me, and I'm kind of like, I don't want. I mean, my puffy, my Ghost Whisperer already has patches all on it where white stuff's coming out. These thorns, I think, will shred it. It really will. So I need to be careful with that tomorrow and see how bad that is on this second day. And I really don't want to mess up my melanzana either. I was just going to wear that around camp, but we'll see. So the thorns are no joke out here, for real. They do kind of come up and grab you and just rip your skin, rip your clothes. So just be mindful. I tell you, there's nothing better than getting into camp and just knocking off that layer of dirt from hiking from the day. You know, the legs, the arms, the hands, you know, you're just filthy. You don't realize how filthy you are until you start wiping it all off. And then you put on a fresh set of clothes that smell good. Man, I feel like a new man now. But I promised you a story. And I don't know all the details, but it was the story of the mystery that is in the Superstition Mountains. And it has to do with, it's not even a legend. It's not even a lore. I mean, it was a real guy. They called him the Dutchman, although I believe he was a German immigrant who was out here in the 1800s looking for gold. And apparently he had found some gold. They know that because as he was coming into town, he would always have little gold nuggets that you could tell he got from some type of mine. But nobody knew where he was getting it. And again, I'm going to mess all this up, but there were people that would follow him out here and then never leave the Superstition Mountains. And, you know, there's this lost Dutchman's gold mine that's supposed to exist out here, and there have been people who have been looking for it for, you know, a couple hundred years now, and no one has been able to find it. There's been maps that I've said have been created, like hieroglyphics on rocks that help point you to where the gold is at. Apparently he left somebody, I don't know if it's his family member, a map as to where to go get the gold of where he lived when he was on his deathbed. And, you know, there's been people that have come out here and have died, people who have been missing. There's been murderers involved with trying to find this gold, and so there's a lot of mystery. And I'm not doing it justice. I'm not. What I would recommend is go check out Syntax 77. I told you he did this trip once with his wife a long time ago, but I think he did it again, I want to say within the last year, if not two, but I think it was in the last year. And he specifically was focusing on the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. And he was hiking around that Weaver's Needle and looking for the hieroglyphics and things like that. And he really tells the story really well. He gives a lot of the great information. So, and he's a great hammock guy. I mean, if you're looking for hammock tips, he is the OG. He is great. But he's got all the details for that story. So there is some mystery out here in these mountains. People have died in these mountains looking for that gold. People have been killed looking for that gold, and it has never been found. So that is the mystery of the Superstition Mountains. Well, that's going to do it for day one. Just another wonderful day, a great meal, but it's time for me now to just sit up my bed and get some sleep. And we will see you in the morning. Morning, folks. It is day 2 and I am back on the trail. I just finished getting water from the Charlie Boy spring. I filled up about 4 liters and my water bottle. So that should be good for the rest of today and maybe even tomorrow morning in case I can't find any other water. So I went ahead and filled up and started hiking out. But last night was a good night. Definitely, when that sun goes down, man, the temperature drops quick because it was probably 65 degrees at camp when I arrived. As soon as that sun went down, it felt like it was, 45, 50 degrees. It got cold pretty quick. But I slept pretty good, for sleeping on the ground. I'm a hammock guy. I like sleeping in a hammock. But I like my Nemo tensor. I like my Zen Bivy sleep system. So I slept well, slept warm. Actually, I was down there in the corner there. And that's actually LaBarge Creek, which you can see is bone dry. But it was a good campsite last night. Pretty views from my campsite. But speaking of campsites, I just walked by a campsite right by Charlie Boy Spring as you're kind of coming up. And there's some trees there. And I'm thinking you might be able to hang a hammock there. But if you wanted to do this as a 2-day backpacking trip one night, this would be a great place because the Charlie Boy Spring is right there. And I think you can make something work. I mean, if you're committed to hammock camping and that's the way you want to go, I think that you could hang a hammock on one of those trees. Just a thought, for you to consider if you want to come out here and do this as a 2-day backpacking trip and you want to go hammock camping. But anyway, looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, blue, clear skies. And yeah, I'm ready to go hit the trail. Let's go get it. Coming up on our first intersection of the day. It is so the Dutchman Trail continues on that way, and that would be the shortest way back to the car. And if I didn't have water, That's what I would probably do. But Red Tanks goes down that way and in that canyon. And there's supposed to be Red Tanks goes along the LaBarge Creek, and I think I saw some parts of the creek that had some water, but so I'm hoping there is water. If there's not, it's okay. Again, I'm carrying, still got 4 liters on me, and that should be enough for tonight and tomorrow. So I'm only going to hike around 6 miles today. I'm not going to need a lot of water on my hike, especially since it's so cool in the morning. And I'm doing that so I can get an early exit tomorrow morning. I've got a long drive back to northern Colorado, and so I need to get out on the trail early tomorrow and get in my truck and start heading home. So should be a short day today and even shorter one tomorrow. Well, that's where I just came from. Just probably around that corner there is where I camped, and I've hiked about 3.5 miles. Most of that has been on the Red Tanks Trail, and I've been cutting across the LaBarge Creek area here. And now I am on I'm on Whiskey Springs Trail, and probably I'm going to hike another 2.5, maybe 3 miles. There is a whiskey spring in the area. I may look for it just for some cold water. So I have enough water, but it's probably room temperature now. So I'd like to have some cold water if possible. But yeah, going to look for some shade and have a little lunch and take a little break. All right, let's get back on the trail. Ooh, it is a hot one out there. It's probably not more than 70 degrees, but man, in that direct sunlight, it is just, starts cooking you. And there's not much shade on this trail. You know, the cactus don't provide much shade out here, and there's hardly any trees. There's a few spots. So I found this one spot here in the shade, and so I'm just going to sit and rest a little bit, have lunch. I only have about 1.5 miles, 2 miles to go until I get to camp. And I've been even toying with the idea of just heading back to my truck. I'm probably going to be around 4, maybe 3 miles away from the trailhead, and we'll just see. We'll see how things go. I do know that there's no more water. So I just passed another hiker, and he said it's been dry all the way from the trailhead. So I got what I got, and I will take care of it for the rest of the day and tomorrow morning. All right, we got a weaver's needle and the miner's needle, all in the same view. It's beautiful. We are back on the Dutchman Trail, and I believe this takes us all the way to the Peralta Trailhead. I think I'm about 4.5 miles from the trailhead, from that junction point. So I'm going to try to find me a good campsite, and let's get a good view of Miner's Needle. So I've hiked almost 7 miles now and haven't really found a good camp spot. I've been hiking down some switchbacks by the Miner's Needle, and no good places to really camp. And I see on the horizon, I believe right over that ridge is my trailhead. And I think I only have about 3 miles left, and it's 2:30. I could be back in my truck by 4. We'll see. Still, we'd like to stay out here another night, but if I can't find any good campsites and I'm right there by the trailhead, I might as well go ahead and hop in my truck and get something cold to drink. But let's see what the trail offers. All right, folks, I'm calling it. I just checked my distance to the trailhead, and I have 2.8 miles left. It is 2:30, and I did come across a campsite. So when I finally got down and hit kind of level ground, I found a campsite, and it's just sitting in the direct sun. It's just blazing, and I'm like, I don't want to sit here for the next, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours before the sun sets behind the mountains. It starts getting dark. If I could have found a place with shade, then I might have stayed there. But 2.8 miles. The trail is fairly cruisy. I can be in my truck by 4. And I think the real kicker for me was tomorrow morning I was gonna have to get up around 4 o'clock anyway to get to my truck early, and the sun doesn't come up till like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and that's the time I needed to be back at my truck. And so I was going to miss any kind of views or scenes anywhere. So I figured, why am I going to sit out here for the next 3 hours and bake in the sun just so I can sleep out here one more night and then not have any views tomorrow morning? So that didn't really make sense to me. I can hammer out these last 2.8 miles, and we can get back to the truck. I can get me a cold drink, turn on some air conditioner, and begin to partially make my way back home tonight. Here we are, last little push. You can see the trailhead down below, about a half a mile. Whew! That was an amazing hike. I think I'm just going to end the video here. But it was a beautiful trail. Someone who's from the southeast part of the country originally, born and raised, and lived most of my life there. I've never really appreciated the Southwest, and I've gotten to love the Utah and Red Rocks. But this is really my first time seeing, this kind of environment with all the cacti and with the big open sweeping views and rock formations. And I loved it. And I loved it that I can do it in February. But it was a beautiful little trail. And I wouldn't say it was necessarily easy. It was 19 miles. I was able to do it in 2 days. But there's a lot of rocks on the trail, so that's going to keep you slow. And there's a lot of bushes that are just jumping out at every corner, grabbing you and, cutting you up. So that kind of slows you down a little bit. And then some of the creek beds that you're crossing over from time to time, you need to make sure you follow those cairns to be able to stay on trail, as I got off track a few times. But so it's not a fast trail, but 19 miles, no need to be fast, and just hike and enjoy. But it was another wonderful backpacking trip. And you know what? If you guys have comments about backpacking loops that you'd like to do, love to hear them in the comments. Until then, keep on blazing. Thanks for watching. So one thing you should do that I didn't do was check the water report. It's at the trailhead. It tells you which water as a certain date has, which spring has water.